Good evening, ghouls and fiends. Welcome once again to another edition of the Ministry of Horror. I am your host, Tez, and the Ministry of Horror is growing. We are taking on a new member of staff, looking to start around September this year. That's right, we're having a baby! We are having a baby. Me and my gorgeous wife, Victoria, are expecting. And we were able to finally, announce it. One of those things where, you have to put things out there on social media for friends and families. It's easier to kind of get it out in one go. And we've had to kind of sit on the secret for a while. There's the safe period you have to wait till before it's really sort of advised to start telling people. And things can always, things can always occur, but we are, we're expecting a baby. A little baby future horror fan is on the way. So thank you very much to everyone who's given us well wishes and whatnot. It's very much appreciated. They've all been read, and we appreciate all the support and the happiness for the future member of the Ministry of Horror. Will we be expecting some little Ministry of Horror branded like rompers and baby clothes? Who knows? Maybe. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the big news. That's kind of the big news. I have played a little bit more Resident Evil Requiem. Out of the basement. That was a sketchy section. Out of the basement as Grace. Now back to exploring the hospital. So that's sort of where I'd gotten to. I'm not going to get a chance to do much more anytime soon because we're off on a long weekend tomorrow morning. But it's so good. It's so good. It's there's nothing really that I've disliked so far with this game. The graphics are excellent. The balance of action and well, not really stealth, but action and scares really well balanced so far. Haven't had too much to do as Leon. It has been very Grace focused so far, but I believe that there's a Leon section coming up which will probably cover a bit more ground. Outside of that, Warhammer 40k, baby. Warhammer 40k. So I have invested, it's an investment, in a whole bunch more paint, contrast paints, layer paints, technical paints. And I've had a go over the last couple of days at doing a bit of contrast painting for one of the Deathwatch kill team, Deathwatch veterans kill team. And I'm pretty pleased actually with it. I'm pretty pleased with it. Trim layering, I'm still terrible at. I think I need to look at some tutorials on how to do that. There seems to be a certain technique where it looks like you're almost using the side of the brush. So I need to sort of just get to grips with how much paint should I be putting on, how much pressure, blah, blah, blah. I got a couple of areas where I was quite pleased with how the trim came out. But I also don't really know exactly which parts to do as trim and which parts to leave. And, I think there's other areas that you use slightly different colours for to get, it's a growing experience. But on the whole, the colours looking pretty damn good. So the mixture of doing the colours and then the shade layers like Nuln Oil, Drakenhof Nightshade and Agrax Earthshade, it's getting better. It's getting better. It's still not very good, but it's getting better. It's all right, actually. Yeah. So yeah, I've got an operation coming up in a few weeks' time on my ankle because my ankle pretty much since birth has been fucked. So that is going to put me out of commission for a little while. Should be able to still record podcasts because I'm basically not going to be able to. I don't do podcasts on my feet. I'm not walking around, so should be all right. But there may be a little delay in the recording schedule depending on what the recovery is like. But a project that the reason I sort of invested in the paints was one because I'm really enjoying building and painting Warhammer 40k, and at some point in the future, I will actually start playing. But yeah, I got like a little project for myself to focus on during the recovery time, which is a Night Lord's Dreadnought. It's one of the big sort of mech things. It looks really cool. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on while I'm sort of recovering. I mean, I'm still going to have to work because that's just life. But I imagine I'll have a couple of days off when I'm in the hospital and cannot physically work. I'm sure that'll be okay. I also must do an apology for last week's show. We did a review of Bonekeeper, and Fran in the Discord had asked the question, a genuine question, I hope, for clarification on an actor in it, or actors. The actor in it is John Rhys Davies. Davies. Oh, there you go. John Rhys Davies. I should just check this because I'll just get lambasted again. John Rhys Davies, right? Okay, yes, he's the actor in the film Bonekeeper. I had a bit of a slip and said a few times, or a number of times, John Rhys Myers, or Jonathan Rhys Myers, probably because I kept saying Jonathan Rhys Davies, or whatever, similar names. Anyway, I'm aware that I probably do that on quite a few podcasts where I'm just having a train of thought, verbal diarrhea, and get names mixed up. I probably called Bone Keeper, Bone Temple, or Bone Taker, or whatever a few times. Yeah, I can only apologise. If you're looking for factual accuracy with names and locations consistently, probably not going to get that with me. Because I just sort of go off on a tangent, and then what I'm actually saying may not be what I'm intending to say. Not in terms of like, not in terms of like Tourette's or anything, but just in terms of, accuracy of names or titles or whatnot, things like that. So apologies if I did cause any confusion. No hard feelings. Don't worry, I'm not getting sour grapes for getting called out. It is a genuine question. But yeah, just to clarify, John Rhys Davies in Bonekeeper. Outside of Warhammer and video gaming, not too much to update on. We've got a couple of films to review today. One I'd watched in bits and pieces due to availability and whatnot, because it's been hella busy. When you've got a baby on the way, lots of stress. Who'd have thought it? Who'd have thought that the stress of getting married in another country is one thing. The stress of having a child on the way, along with having surgery, which was going to just be excellent, is another level of stress. So, hey. Okay, well, there we go. Yes, this has been a stressful time. But I have watched The Mortuary Assistant, which dropped on Shudder last week. And also, I spent my hard-earned coin to rent Night Patrol, the new Justin Long and CM Punk, Bill Brooks, starring vampire cop action film. So we're going to have reviews of those a bit later on. Before that, though, it's time to jump into some horror news. And as per usual with all our horror news, it comes from bloodydisgusting.com. Check them out. First up is Scream 7 is the first Scream movie to hit $200 million at the box office. This write-up comes from John Squires. Scream 7 quickly became a record-breaking installment in the 30-year-long saga when it became the highest-grossing single installment in the franchise earlier this month, and the film just shattered another big-time box office record for the Scream franchise. With a current worldwide total of a whopping $204,095,676, Scream 7 is now officially the first and only movie in the Scream franchise to slash into $200 million at the box office. $118.6 million of that was made domestically, with $85.4 million scared up internationally. Wes Craven's original Scream made $173 million worldwide by the end of its run back in 1996, and it had long been the highest grossing installment in the franchise. It's now been dethroned by Kevin Williamson's Scream 7, though we must note that the original Scream's 30-year-old box office numbers have not been adjusted for present-day inflation for this article. In addition to smashing through those two impressive records, Scream 7 is also the move to propel the Scream franchise past $1 billion at the worldwide box office. Over the course of the past 30 years, the Scream movies have scared up $1,116,513,775 in theatres, making Scream one of only 6 horror franchises in history to hit that milestone. Scream 7 is now available on digital at home. The latest installment in the slasher saga will also be released on Steelbook, 4K Ultra HD, Blu-ray and DVD on June 16th via Paramount. The thing is, do I buy it for the collection? Maybe just the standard edition. I've got Scream 6 on 4K, Scream 5 is standard Blu-ray, and then I got to the trilogy Blu-ray because it was like $12.99, and Scream 4 on Blu-ray. So they're all Blu-ray. I've only got one 6K. Is my point. I had been looking at the Scream trilogy on 4K, but I have read that the 4K transfers were just. You sometimes get it when you get a 4K release of a film and it looks no different to the Blu-ray. It's kind of almost like it's been put on a 4K disc as opposed to being a 4K rendering, 4K release. And so it was like 50 quid for something which looks the same as Blu-ray, supposedly, or £12 for the Blu-ray. So I opted Blu-ray, and then Scream 4 is only available on Blu-ray. Although it does sound as though they are going to be releasing a Steelbook 4K edition of that finally. And I say finally because after rewatching Scream 4 for like the third or fourth time, yeah, I actually quite enjoy it. I quite enjoy it. It's for one that I've normally found a bit boring, it's all right actually, and it has got a good finale. Scream 7 though, boy. Yeah. You can hear my thoughts on the review on a previous podcast, and I also did a spoiler chat on that one as well a little while ago. It's decent up until the end, and then the end just highlighted a lot of things that I didn't like. So I'll give it a rewatch at some point. Knowing me, I will end up getting it for the collection, but begrudgingly. You know what I mean? It's if you can't really have Screams 1 to 6 and then not have the 7th one. You kind of just have to. It's the joy of being a collector. Next in the horror news, speaking of Scream, Scream 8 in development from Poker Face writers Lilla and Nora Zuckerman. This time the write-up is from Alex DiVincenzo. Spyglass Media Group is officially developing the 8th installment of the Scream franchise with writers Lilla and Nora Zuckerman, Deadline has learned. The Zuckerman sisters most recently penned the Buffy the Vampire Slayer new Sunnydale pilot, which Hulu passed on earlier this month. The duo previously served as showrunners on Peacock's Poker Face and worked as writers on the likes of Suits, Fringe, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Haven. The news comes as Scream 7 arrives on digital today after crossing the $200 million mark at the global box office. We've just discussed that. Yeah, I mean, so a new horror film release. I don't feel like this like I felt after watching Halloween Ends, where I was just like, oh, God. Just no more now for a while. I mean, yeah, I did actually, I say that, being a hypocrite. I did part of my my discussion, my review was like, should we have a break from the Scream series? I do think we should, because, I mean, if we had a situation where the original writer of the first few films has returned to write and direct, co-write, I should say, and I felt, how I did, then that's a certain level of disappointment I wasn't expecting. And I think it's probably because I had hype levels for it that meant that I was more disappointed than I probably would have been otherwise. I don't really know anything about Lila and Nora Zuckerman. I've seen the first couple of seasons of Fringe. I haven't seen Poker Face or the other shows, but they come from a TV background. Doesn't necessarily mean anything negative for transitioning into film, but it is kind of difficult to have hype for a Scream 8 when I was pretty disappointed with Scream 7, and I don't know their background enough to think, oh, okay, this is an interesting pair of hands. Or set of hands. So, there you go. That's news. Next, Backrooms trailer. Chiwetel Ejiofor and Renette Reinsve get lost in a liminal horror nightmare. Alex DiVincenzo writes. Academy Award nominees Chiwetel Ejiofor and Renette Reinsve. I'm probably butchering both names. I apologise. We know I'm no good with names. Explore a mysterious liminal space in the Backrooms trailer. YouTube prodigy Kane Parsons makes his feature directorial debut based on his creepypasta-inspired video series, which debuted in 2022 and has amassed over 190 million views to date. The Backrooms trailer reveals that the film incorporates VHS-style found footage into the narrative, echoing the concept's viral origins. Watch A24's official trailer below. Will Sudik penned the script for the Backrooms movie, in which a strange doorway appears in the basement of a furniture showroom. Mark Duplass, Phil Bennett, Lukita Maxwell and Avan Georgia round out the cast. A24 produces alongside Cherry Entertainment, 21 Laps Entertainment, James Wan's Atomic Monster, and Osgood Perkins' Phobos. It opens to theatres May 29th via A24. Tickets are on sale now. So, I never really read creepypastas. It's sort of an area of the internet that when it was booming with the likes of course, the Backrooms and most notably Slender Man, I wasn't really on the internet that much. I wasn't really on like Reddit and all that kind of stuff. So the world of creepypasta boom sort of passed me by while I was reading actual books. But I have since seen some of Kane Parsons' Backrooms videos on YouTube. And I've played a little bit of one of the games, so I get the appeal is that it's basically this space that shouldn't exist, where you have basically like yellowed, I think it's due to the lighting, the luminous lighting, the overhead lighting, yellow walls. It's like an office sort of space or apartment block kind of space, but it's just blank walls and very little kind of going on, just corridors and corridors of almost nothing. But then there are things there, and there's there is a path through there, but is that path changing all the time? Does it open up then into other kind of spaces, like like water slide type areas, fun rooms, and just weird, a lot of kind of weird stuff. Like that's the appeal of the back rooms. So it's pretty interesting stuff. The trailer seems to capture that vibe pretty well. It's one of those things where you would probably kind of ask, okay, well, how are we going to tell this out in a story that's going to be a feature film? And it's a bit of a risk because this is a feature film debut, but it's the original, not the original creepypasta creator, but the original online viral videos creator behind it, and it doesn't seem like he is completely abandoning the VHS style concept. It looks like it's blending it quite well. There aren't really any creatures I can see from the trailer. I might need to give it another watch, but one of the things in the videos is this almost like kind of static monster type thing. But I think that there's different ones. There's probably quite a lot of Backrooms videos that I haven't seen, with different sort of things going on there. So I'm pretty excited to watch some more Backrooms, YouTube videos, get a bit more of a understanding of that world. But that means it's been a successful trailer. So I will hopefully, depending on the recovery, be going to see Backrooms in the cinema. I definitely want to, that's for sure. Looks pretty interesting. Next, comic book news. Hellraiser Omnibus Volume 1 from Boom Studios reopens the puzzle box in November. John Squires writes, this is an exclusive for Bloody Disgusting. This year marks the 40th anniversary of Clive Barker's The Hellbound Heart, the original novella that spawned the Hellraiser film franchise, and Boom Studios is celebrating this coming November with Hellraiser Omnibus Volume 1. We've got the exclusive clip. Releasing November 24th, 2026 from Boom Studios, Hellraiser Omnibus Volume 1 is an expansive new edition that collects over 500 pages, offering fans and collectors a definitive continuation of Clive Barker's Hellraiser saga and bringing fresh life to legendary horror icon Pinhead and his army of Cenobites. The upcoming omnibus assembles the complete 2011 Hellraiser 1-20 comic series and the Hellraiser Annual Number 1, all created under Clive Barker's close guidance and creative oversight. The series serves as a canonical continuation of the original story, forever redefining the legacy of the Hellraiser mythos in a richly imagined, meticulously crafted horror narrative. Ooh, the artwork looks pretty cool for the cover. It's I don't know what you kind of call the art style, so I won't I won't get it completely wrong, but yeah, you've got Pinhead kind of slightly angled, looking down towards the lament configuration. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm very out of sorts with graphic novels. I had been a big graphic novel fan for a while, but yeah, I'm very out of touch with it. I haven't really read any graphic novels for quite a long time. Got far too many books as it is, let alone graphic novels, which take up even more space. So yeah, I can't be taking up more space. Next, Darkrai Montgomery Dacre, I don't know how to pronounce it. Dacre Montgomery and Barbie Ferreira face off in intense Faces of Death exclusive images. Megan Navarro writes, every generation has a rite of passage. Meet the new faces of death. Meet the new faces of Faces of Death in our exclusive batch of images that give a closer look at Predator and Prey. The meta-horror remake of the notorious 1978 faux documentary opens in theatres April 10th by independent film company and Shudder. Barbie Ferreira, Dacre Montgomery, Josie Tota, Aaron Holiday, Jermaine Fowler, and pop superstar Charlie XCX star in the film. In Faces of Death, the exploration of the original film's infamous "is it real or not" conceit continues as a woman working as a content moderator for a major video platform discovers what appears to be reenactments of murders from the original film. In an online world where nothing can be trusted, she must determine whether the violence is fiction or unfolding in real time. Unlike the censored posters and teasers that have preceded, the fresh batch of images below gets up close and personal with the cast of characters caught in a deadly reenactment of the original film. Daniel Coldhaber directs from a script he co-wrote with Isa Mazet. So the images here don't really give too much away. It's more so reactionary shots, and yeah, I've seen the trailer. It does look like quite an interesting concept. You know, I'm very hit and miss with meta, whether I like it, but I think with Faces of Death, like the original film, or I think I've seen the first 2 or 3. I want to say, maybe there was only one, but I'm pretty sure there was a couple, 2 or 3 or whatever. Yeah, they are basically just scenes that appear to be documentary footage. It is made very well, the first one at least, because there are some moments where you just think, oh god, is that actually real? Like there's a gator roll where someone gets their arm torn off. It's shot very realistic looking. There's a bear attack, which is pretty good. Not good, but you know, in terms of pretty freaky. There's probably the infamous cover art with a guy who's got his eyes covered and he's in an electric chair, and his eyes, I think, start bleeding while he's being electrocuted to death. But yeah, it is essentially just the various faces of death caught on camera. And there's like a cult sacrifice scene, which was obviously very, you know, that was one of those moments where it's like, you're watching it and going, okay, well, some of the animal attacks could have been real, you know, watching it as a kid who shouldn't be watching it. But these ones definitely are fake. Obviously, the whole film is fake. But yeah, it's an interesting looking concept. It's an interesting looking concept. So, you know, why not, eh? Why not? Let's just move on from that one. Zach Kreger expects fans to crucify him for Resident Evil. Oh dear. Alex DiVincenzo writes, oh dear, it's like his yeah, okay. He's setting our expectations to be, look, just don't expect this to be an adaptation of the games. Why do it then? Anyway, Weapons filmmaker Zach Kreger has made it clear in interviews that his Resident Evil film will not be slavish to the source material, but he's still aiming to honour the experience of the video games. I love the idea of being pitted against a world that is hell-bent on annihilating you, Kreger tells the New York Times. It just feels fun, and I haven't seen a movie that offers that sort of experience. Kreger also admits that he anticipates some fans will crucify him for deviating from the franchise's lore. The filmmaker previously stated, I'm definitely not trying to be completely obedient to the lore of the games. I'm trying to tell a story that just feels authentic to the experience you get when you play the games. Directed by Kreger from a script he co-wrote with Shay Hatton, Resident Evil opens in theatres on September 18th via Sony. Austin Abrams, Paul Walter Hauser, Zach Cherry, Callie Reese, and Jono Wilson star. I like Zach Kreger. I like Barbarian. I like Weapons. I like Resident Evil. It's very formative for my horror fandom. Would I like a Resident Evil film to actually be an adaptation of one of the games, but done, you know, in a way that takes those good elements, but tells it in a, you know, sufficient hour and a half, 2 hours story that just has, you know, good scares, good moments of tension, good attacks, violence. Yes, that's what I would like. Are we ever going to get that? Probably not. But I imagine it's still probably going to be a very good film. I just hope it's not one of those films where it's like, okay, well, this was a zombie mutated sort of attack film that holds that held no bearing to any of the games, why call it Resident Evil? That's just what I'm hoping isn't going to be the case. We can but hope. And finally in the news, the Blair Witch Project remake reportedly finds a director. Alex DiVincenzo writes, 2 years after Lionsgate and Blumhouse announced that they were teaming up on a new Blair Witch project, the film finally seems to be moving forward. Daniel Richman alleges that Dylan Clark, who's set to make his feature directorial debut on Universal's Portrait of God with producer Sam Raimi or Jordan Peele, is attached to helm the remake. Jason Blum will produce the new take on the seminal found footage horror classic alongside Roy Lee. Directed by Daniel Marick and Eduardo Sanchez, the Blair Witch Project followed 3 film students who vanished in the Maryland woods while shooting a documentary on a local legend, leaving only their footage behind. The 1999 movie was produced for around $60,000 and earned $248.6 million at the global box office, making it one of the most successful independent films of all time. It was followed by Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, Electric Boogaloo in 2000, and Blair Witch in 2016, but neither could capture the lightning in a bottle of the original. Perhaps Clark will be the one to beat the curse. It's one of those things where it's like the Blair Witch Project doesn't need a remake because the aesthetic style of it, the found footage, it's a great film. There isn't anything that I would think needs updating and changing. I would like a good sequel. I mean, I enjoyed Blair Witch. It's not perfect, but I generally enjoyed it. Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows was crap, but it would be good to have a sequel that can capture the magic of the first film. I think with a remake, you're either going to be retreading the infamous points, the infamous scenes, the finale, or trying to do something different, which is always then going to get compared to the original finale. So, am I hyped for a remake of the Blair Witch Project? No. But am I going to poo-poo it? No, because, it could always be decent. It could always be decent. It could always be pretty good. But is it a property that I think needs a remake? No. There we go. Hope I made that clear. Right, let's jump into the horror reviews. Let's keep this train rolling. Choo-choo! Film review time. So, I have seen, finally, The Mortuary Assistant. Watched this on Shudder in a couple of sittings. Late last week, early this week. So with our reviews, we're going to talk about the highs, the lows, and I'm going to give the film a score out of 10. We'll talk a little bit about the plot as well. This has landed on Shudder on Friday, just gone, last Friday. It's a 2026 American supernatural horror film directed by Jeremiah Kipp from a screenplay by Tracy Beebe and Brian Clark, based on the 2022 video game by DreadXP, stars Willa Holland and Paul Sparks. Okay, so let's jump into the plot. A woman with a troubled past named Rebecca takes a job at a mortuary. Rebecca attends a Narcotics Anonymous group and obtains her 1-year sober chip. She is contacted by her boss Raymond one evening and told that they have had transfers from the city. She will have to come in and work the night shift. Rebecca comes into work and proceeds embalming and burning a body, which she initially finds strange that the chart states to do both, as this would be a waste of time, but she proceeds anyway. Strange things start happening. She sees a shadowy figure and various hallucinations. She wakes up back at home and someone she saw at the Narcotics Anonymous meeting is banging on the door. Rebecca reluctantly answers the door and the woman states Rebecca had called her and told her to come over, which Rebecca does not recall. Rebecca then loses control, her eyes go yellow and she begins violently attacking and eventually killing the woman with a corkscrew through the temple. Okay, right, I haven't played the Mortuary Assistant, the game. I've only ever seen the clips on bit shaven. I've only ever seen the clips on social media of people, reacting to the game. And yeah, the game looks decent. Looks like one of those games that's very jump scare heavy, probably not with that much action in terms of the plot. It's probably got a good plot, like the Five Nights at Freddy's games have quite a lot of rich lore, but in terms of actual action from one moment to the next, you kind of just, I gather, doing the same sort of thing. So I don't know how how accurate this film is to the game. But this film is pretty terrible. It's one of those films where it's, you know, it's psychological horror, supernatural horror, psychological horror that falls into that camp of, well, we can have something creepy happening, and then oh, they've just woken up. Oh, we've now got something else really creepy happening. Oh my god, this character's in peril, and oh wait, no, she's by herself. Oh, someone's attacking them. They're going to try and stab them with a knife. Oh, they're stabbing themselves with a knife. You get the gist that this is that type of film where it's constantly, oh, fake out. Oh, something that should be creepy but isn't really creepy because it's not a very good film. Oh, fake out. That's the mix that we're getting here. There's not really much that I can kind of say about this film. Like, yeah, it's shot okay. You know, it looks good. It looks like there's some money behind the production. But by the point that you then see this creepy grinning being, which if you see stills of it, looks creepy. You know, if you're watching the YouTube video, we've got the art for the film on, and that's a creepy being that appears in the film. But because you've had so many bullshit fake out moments, when you then do get a creepy appearance, it doesn't matter because you just don't care because the film is just it's just sucked all interest out of you. I mean, I finished the film. I couldn't really tell you what happens at the end because I lost the will to live as this film continued. Yeah, I can't really give much of a score to that. I mean, I'd heard that the reviews were quite bad for this, and I remember thinking, but the trailers look pretty good. That's quite surprising to hear. You know, it's quite a beloved property. But yeah, it sucked. It did suck ass. 2 out of 10 for the Mortuary Assistant. The 2 points is because it's shot kind of well, and the acting, I suppose, for what they're given to do is all right. Outside of that, it's just bad. It sucks ass. 2 out of 10 for the Mortuary Assistant. And we're moving on now to Night Patrol. Night Patrol is a 2025 American horror film starring Jermaine Fowler, Justin Long, Freddie Gibbs, RJ Seiler, YG, Nikki Michaud, Flying Lotus, Phil Brooks, and Dermot Mulroney. Phil Brooks, also more popularly known as current WWE champion CM Punk. Directed and co-written by Ryan Prowse, the film is about an LA cop, who... Apologies there. The film is about an LA cop who must put aside his differences after finding a task force who harbour a secret that endangers the residents of the housing project he grew up in. Okay, so we'll talk a bit about the plot and we'll get into it. Xavier Carr, a black LAPD officer and former Crip, navigates the tension of policing the colonial courts, housing projects, where he grew up. His partner, Ethan Hawkins, the son of a legendary but deceased sergeant, is desperate to join the Night Patrol, an elite, secretive task force that operates exclusively after dark. The true nature of the unit is revealed when Xavier's brother Wazi witnesses a Night Patrol officer brutally murdering his girlfriend. That's very, very early on in the film. So Justin Long is trying to ingratiate himself into this Night Force, which appears to be led on the face of it by Phil Brooks. It's established early on that these guys are vampires. So that's not really a surprise, and the artwork has fanged teeth on it. So it's a police vampire thing, and yeah, police vampires. So we're introduced to Wazzy is essentially our focal point here. He gets away, but because he has witnessed the events of a killing from a night patrol, an unprovoked killing of a civilian, he's now sort of almost marked because you can't have any witnesses to the work they do. And what the work they do, they consider cleaning up the streets, but it's also a feast. It's like kind of a blood harvest. Which does lead to a particular event where one night the night patrol are out in full force. They're rounding people up. They are essentially just killing people and feeding their blood into a big tank to sort of, you know, feed them for a while. Okay, so the performances in this are pretty good. There is there are some moments where the dialogue is it's a bit, not the kind of dialogue I'd use. I would just say, um, it's a bit hip hop. Okay, it's a bit hip hop. Um, so there are times where I was just like, I don't really kind of get what's being discussed, what's being discussed here. But that's probably me just being not very well versed in hip hop, and the performances, as I say, decent. The vampires themselves, instead of sort of mutating, or for the most part mutating, they drink blood, which gives them more strength and durability. But they kind of, it's quite cool actually. They put in these little metal fangs. It's kind of like part of their get-up. They got their SWAT gear on almost, and these little metal fangs. So they're shooting people, and then drinking up the blood, or in some cases biting and drinking up the blood. There's also quite a cool use of this kind of thermal night vision camera. It's not like proper night vision, but it's kind of like a thermal imaging, but it's like a black and white sort of thermal imaging, like the sort that you see on like a police chase at night, where the helicopters look to see heat signatures moving. It's like that. You get that with some of the attacks from the vampire cops, but then you also get this kind of close-up shot where it's almost seeing actually their vision, because they're looking at people and they can see, like, blood pumping the veins. It's all in this kind of black and white imaging, but you can kind of see what they're looking at, and that was actually quite cool. Leveling out the coolness though, and I'll put in with the coolness. The attacks are pretty good. The some of the shooting moments, the effects are decent. I would say that. There is also some weird, cheesy editing. Like, there's a particular moment when Wazzy and his mother are running away from a whole load of vampires, right? And you get the initial moment of them, right, we've got to get out of here. And that they intersperse the scenes of the vampires approaching them, like, starting to make chase, almost like a horde, with these really, really cheesy close ups of them individually running like that, but then getting like claws slashing at them off camera. So they're like, run in slow mo, and then I've been slashed. And it's like like watching something from the 60s. Kind of like, in this day and age, we don't have to do this pretend to run on the spot and we'll slow it down like that. It just did look a bit shitty. I think the thing with Night Patrol is there's potential in there for it to be a pretty decent film. I mean, there's a typical social commentary which is very on the nose of like racial tensions, tension between police and inner cities. So there's commentary there, which is fine, and it passes the time. It's not especially good, but I mean, it's not Mortuary Assistant bad. There are some good things going on here. CM Punk's performance is on the whole quite good. If you've ever watched WWE, he's very good on the microphone, and so he has a few moments of little monologues here and there, and it's fine. Dermot Mulroney is once again chewing up the scenery like he did in Scream 6, but whatever. And Justin Long's always good value. He puts in a pretty good performance in this, I would say. So I would give Night Patrol, I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10. It is very middle of the road. There's some entertainment value there. There is also some schlocky cheese, but it never veers too much into the realm of being bad, but also not entertaining enough for me to kind of say, well, it's pretty good. There's potential, but it just sort of falls in the middle. 5.5 out of 10 for Night Patrol. Anyway, ghouls and fiends, that is it for another edition of the Ministry of Horror. We've got to give a shout out here to our patrons over on patreon.com/Ministry of Horror. If you want to support the channel, we have a number of different levels there that help the channel run. So it's always very much appreciated. We've had a new a new patron come on board, Carl. Thank you very much, Carl. Along, of course, with the Gruff. Shout out, of course, to the Gruff. And JP and Bericles. Thank you very much, dudes. Continued support is much appreciated. Share it. Spread the word. Social platforms, of course, TikTok is our big platform. We're kind of veering in on 3,000 now on there, which just sounds wild considering this time last year we were probably still at like 50. So it's just continuing to have nice steady growth over there, which is really cool. And one of my lists of like 5 best slashers from the 80s, which aren't your big franchises, has had 250,000 views, over 250,000 views, which it does just blow my mind. So follow over on there if you're not already. Share that platform around. Instagram, not really Facebook. YouTube views are starting to climb a little bit, which is really cool. So if you are following the Ministry of Horror on YouTube, be sure to set notifications to the videos. Give them a watch, even if you don't want to watch them. Just play it in the background. And then, of course, Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music. If you like the podcast, please be sure to follow the channel on any of those platforms. Whoop! Didn't mean to whack the microphone. And give us a review. Hopefully a high review, but whatever. Just give us a nice review. That helps build the exposure and visibility of the channel. Anyway, I've been your host, Tez. We're expecting a baby. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet. And you've been awesome. Catch you again next time. Goodbye.